Right now on Morning News Now, presidential push this morning. Both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump trying to court the undecided vote.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
VP Harris sitting down with Fox News as former President Trump takes part in an all-female town hall. Plus, early voting now underway in storm-ravaged North Carolina. We have team coverage. And developing this morning, mounting tensions in the Middle East. The U.S. launching airstrikes in Yemen using B-2 bombers for the first time against the Houthis. And in Lebanon, more than a dozen people killed in the latest airstrike by Israel. We'll bring you the latest. Plus, shock and sadness in the music world and beyond over the tragic death of singer Payne. What we're learning from authorities as fans and celebrities pay tribute. And change for change, how one man with a peanut stand is working to pay for students' healthy lunches 1 cent at a time. He is a character you will just love to meet this morning.
Looking forward to that introduction. Good to have you with us on a Thursday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to start with the neck-and-neck race to the White House. Millions of Americans have already cast their ballot for the next president of the United States. With less than 3 weeks left until Election Day, the candidates are, of course, making that last-ditch effort to sway critical, undecided voters.
Vice President Harris sat down with Fox News for what was at times a deeply contentious interview. She said she will not be a continuation of Biden's presidency. And former President Trump made a plea to voters at a friendlier Fox event, an all-female town hall, saying some states' abortion laws are too tough. NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton is standing by in North Carolina, where in-person early voting starts today. But we begin with the latest from the candidates themselves. NBC News correspondent Alice Barr joins us from Washington with more on those Fox News appearances. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. Looking ahead, former President Trump will be in New York for the Al Smith charity dinner tonight. But in a break with tradition, Vice President Harris will not attend, choosing instead to campaign in battleground Wisconsin after battling it out in a sometimes heated interview on Fox News.
To deal with affordable.
Vice President Harris in her first formal interview with Fox News, making her pitch to Republicans hesitant to vote for former President Trump.
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
In testy exchanges over immigration.
The 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished.
The vice president zeroed in on the bipartisan border bill former President Trump opposed.
If a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border.
And defended her shift from more liberal positions during her 2019 presidential bid.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
The sit-down followed a Pennsylvania appearance with former Republican officials, including one-time GOP Congressman Adam Kinzinger, calling out Donald Trump's rhetoric as he appeared in a Fox News town hall with all-women voters. Working to make up ground with female voters, the former president stressed his support for in vitro fertilization.
I'm the father of IVF, so I want to hear this question. We're totally in favor of IVF.
And called some states' abortion laws too tough.
They're too tough, and those are going to be redone.
Former President Trump also appeared in a Univision town hall voicing support for legal immigration.
We just want them to come in legally.
While not backing off false claims about Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio. Vice President Harris slammed former President Trump's comments on IVF, saying he should take responsibility for restrictions to reproductive rights in states across the country, including some threats to IVF. We have seen the former president has said that if elected, he would have the government or insurance companies foot the bill for IVF. Savannah and Joe.
All right, Alice Barr, thank you.
Now let's bring in NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton, who's on the ground in Black Mountain, North Carolina. That's in the western part of the state, which, as you remember, was hard hit by Hurricane Helene just weeks ago. Antonia, good morning. So today is the first day of early voting in North Carolina. It's thought of as a battleground state this time around. What are the polls showing going into today, and what type of turnout is expected? Are you seeing anything so far?
Good morning, guys. Well, look, the polls here have consistently showed in recent weeks that this is sort of anyone's game. It's a jump ball. And so what that means is turnout is everything, no matter whose side you're on. And early voting is really important in this state. In fact, in 2020, 65% of North Carolina voters utilized in-person early voting. So we expect major turnout. The one thing that could complicate all of that, of course, is the storm recovery. People have lost their jobs. They've lost their homes and cars in many cases. Their kids are still out of school in many of the counties in this area. And so the concern from people is that, look, it's going to be hard for people to physically get to the polls. It's no longer going to be their top priority. Take a listen to some of the conversations we've had with voters this week.
The whole political arena right now is in such chaos that I don't know. I really don't. I hope it will encourage people.
If I could, I'd go around and collect everybody in my little van, because I think it's very important that we get out and vote.
We're not worried about who becomes the next president, because in 4 years when they're gone, there's still going to be things in this valley and in these communities that's not going to be back to normal.
Here in Buncombe County, the elections officials are doing everything that they can to make sure that people can still make it to the polls. So they have made repairs to storm-damaged sites, like the library where I am right now. People are going to start voting here in about 2 hours. They had to make repairs here to get it ready. But they've also opened up an entirely new site, and they've made changes to absentee voting if that's what works best for people. You can go into county offices and just request your absentee ballot over the counter in Asheville. So that's a major change that they hope will really just accommodate people who are going through so much still several weeks out from this storm now, guys.
It's going to take an effort to get so many people to vote who maybe just weeks ago thought it would be normal, and it certainly is not now. We have to talk about the Republican candidate for governor in North Carolina, Mark Robinson. He's been accused of posting racist and explicit comments on a pornography website more than 10 years ago, something he's denied. Some Republicans pressured him to drop out. He did not. Former President Trump's campaign keeping its distance. Is there any evidence Robinson could have a negative impact on Trump's chances in that tight state?
Well, there's certainly anecdotal evidence. I've been speaking to voters here in North Carolina over the past month, and a lot of them cite their concerns about Mark Robinson. You know, he's not just a candidate for governor. He is the sitting lieutenant governor. And so this is a state with a lot of people in the middle, more moderate Republicans or moderate Democrats who have at times split ticket voted. You know, they want to see a Democrat in the White House, but a Republican be their governor, or the other way around. And for them, the kind of extreme comments he's alleged to have made on that website, it's just so far beyond the pale for them. And so the concern for Republicans is that he could drag the entire ticket down, not just former President Trump at the top of the ticket, but that actually he could harm other statewide races for Republicans because people aren't that enthusiastic. He's not going to be President Trump. He's not going to be with President Trump at any rallies. And he's really not getting that kind of support right now. And so the concern is for Republican voters that, combined with what we're seeing happen with storm impacts, it's just going to be the kind of drag on the polls that they do not need in a race that, again, is all about turnout. It is just going to be a numbers game. Here in North Carolina, sometimes races are won by just a couple hundred votes, guys.
Wow. Antonia on the ground in North Carolina for us. Thank you so much.
A new filing from Special Counsel Jack Smith argues that former President Trump bears the responsibility for the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol.
The filing by Smith is in response to Mr. Trump's lawyer's latest attempt to dismiss the case by claiming that the latest indictment in the case doesn't show Mr. Trump was responsible for the attack. Smith says the former president, quote, willfully caused others to disrupt the certification of President Joe Biden's victory in the 2020 election by repeating false claims of election fraud and giving, quote, false hope to his supporters. Mr. Trump has denied any responsibility for the attack. A motion to dismiss the case based on his claims of presidential immunity is now due just 2 days after Election Day.
We turn now to the latest from the Middle East. The Pentagon says the U.S. launched airstrikes against the Houthis in Yemen. B-2 stealth bombers and other aircraft targeted 5 underground weapons facilities believed to store munitions used to attack military and commercial ships on the Red Sea.
Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes struck southern Lebanon and the southern suburbs of Beirut on Wednesday, killing at least 16 people, Lebanese officials say. This comes as 50 aid trucks crossed into northern Gaza on Wednesday after a warning from U.S. officials that they may restrict military assistance to Israel if the humanitarian situation in Gaza does not improve.
NBC News international correspondent Megan Fitzgerald joins us now with the latest. So, Megan, good morning. So the Houthi rebels, they are an extremist group in Yemen backed by Iran. They declared their support last year for Hamas in its fight against Israel. What more can you tell us about this unexpected U.S. attack on the Houthis? What are U.S. defense officials saying about it?
Well, guys, good morning. What we know is that the U.S. struck facilities that house a variety of weapons that the Houthis use to target both civilian and military vessels that are moving through the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. And as you said, the U.S. used for the first time B-2 bombers. And Secretary Austin talked about that. He said the weapons were housed in a hardened structure and that the precise attack by U.S. forces shows their ability to strike targets no matter how fortified or deeply buried underground. Now, the mission here is to try and prevent the Houthis from continuing attacks on vessels in these enormously critical waterways and, of course, to protect U.S. personnel. Guys.
And Megan, we spoke yesterday about that letter from U.S. officials we just mentioned where it warned Israel that the U.S. might start restricting some of this military assistance. How has Israel responded? Does it appear as though people in Gaza, at least since that letter, anything has changed in terms of the aid they're getting?
Well, look, we are seeing some action by Israel. An emergency cabinet meeting was called last night to discuss ways of increasing aid into the enclave in light, of course, of that warning you mentioned from the U.S. We know 50 aid trucks have since made their way into Gaza via the Erez crossing. But here's the thing. Our teams on the ground have spoken with contacts involved with the distribution of aid who confirmed that the aid went to Gaza City and not the northern part of the Strip. So keep in mind, we're talking about a catastrophic situation, of course, throughout the entire enclave. But if you can imagine, the north is even worse. The UN said just this week that it appears as though northern Gaza is being completely cut off from the rest of the enclave. People, including children, have been dying from severe malnutrition. And, humanitarian aid agencies will tell you that 50 trucks is simply a drop in the ocean. Now, aid trucks entering, of course, is a sign that Israel got the message from the U.S., but we'll be watching, of course, very closely to see how they ramp up, if they ramp up aid over the course of the next 30 days, guys.
All right. Megan Fitzgerald. Megan, thank you so much.
Turning now to that shocking loss in the music world. Today, fans around the globe are mourning the death of former One Direction band member Liam Payne. Officials in Argentina say the British singer-songwriter died Wednesday after falling from the third-floor balcony of a hotel in Buenos Aires.
Medics there say they received a 911 call from that hotel earlier about, quote, an aggressive man who could be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Now, right now, police are still investigating. It's unclear if any substances were involved. Overnight, dozens of One Direction fans gathered in memoriam outside the hotel to light candles and sing songs. Payne was one of the band's original members when it was formed back in 2010. He later launched a solo career in 2017 after 1D went on hiatus. For more, let's bring in entertainment journalist Brian Balthasar. Brian, this is just a heartbreaking loss for so many fans. We know Payne leaves behind a young son. What are people who work with him or who just loved his music saying about him as they pay tribute?
Right. Well, to your point, this is incredibly shocking. He was 31 years old and immensely talented. Much of the celebrity community obviously responding. Charlie Puth, actually, one of the first people that Charlie worked with was Liam Payne. He said, "I am in shock right now. Liam was always so kind to me. He was one of the first major artists I got to work with. I can't believe he is gone." Zed, another collaborator of Liam, said, "R.I.P. Liam. I can't believe this is real. Absolutely heartbreaking." We talk a lot about his amazing success in One Direction at a very young age, and then he went solo and had immense success then. In 2017, he released a single called Strip That Down. 2019, an album. Over the course of his solo career alone, he sold 18 million singles, 2.4 million albums, 3.9 billion streams. But none of this overrides the fact that he's been very open and talked about the struggles that he's had over the course of his career and his life with mental health, addiction. He spent 100 days in a rehab facility and was very open about talking about how he was trying to grapple with how his relationship with pills and alcohol. And obviously some of the reports that we're seeing was some erratic and aggressive behavior. Of course, there are more questions right now than answers. Some of them we may never get, but this is a significant loss for an entire generation of people and the community as a whole.
So, Brian, the circumstances of his death are still being investigated, but we know in the past Payne was vocal about struggles he'd had with addiction. Do we know anything more about this trip he was on, anything we'd seen there, or recent challenges he was maybe having with substance abuse?
Well, we do know that he went to Argentina to see his former bandmate Niall Horan perform, and he alluded on social media that they had some things to square up. He did acknowledge that nothing serious, but that they had lost touch, they haven't talked in a while, and that he had some things to square up. He had been somewhat public at times about it's kind of an uncertainty to the relationship with him and his bandmates. And so sometimes he would then say something and then he would take that back. But we do know he was going to see Niall perform, and that during the course of this visit, he posted quite a bit on Snapchat. In fact, the same day that yesterday he had posted on Snapchat. It's hard to tell on these apps what and when these posts were videoed and taped and then later posted. That's not always exactly at that same moment. But he appears relatively, even-keeled in that video. But we do know that then later in the lobby of this hotel, he was acting aggressively and some say potentially under the influence of alcohol or some sort of substance.
Brian, One Direction's been on this indefinite hiatus since 2016. Obviously, we know the success Harry Styles has had, as well as Niall. You touched on some of Payne's successes since he went solo, all those millions of albums sold and things like that. Talk a little more about what he has been working on in his career over these last 8 years.
Well, a lot of people might assume that the dissolving of One Direction was a difficult thing for him. But in fact, he says some of his most difficult times were during the touring, that there were times that the schedule and the life that he was living at that time was so intense that he was unfit to perform, and yet he still did. Actually, having left One Direction, he said gave him the time to kind of rediscover himself and recharge. But then, of course, he did acknowledge that later on he did have to go to rehab, spend 100 days there without any connection, no phone, to try and refocus on himself. He had been in and out of a relationship with his girlfriend and the mother of his child quite frequently over the past couple years, and it was playing out a little bit publicly, and that we could see that there, and we could read from reports that there was a lot of difficulty in that relationship. Of course, we don't know. This is one of those questions, and many of these questions that we'll have will never get answered. We know he had professional success, but as we all know, professional success and financial success does not equal mental health, and that's why it's important for all of us to look out for each other when we see that they're suffering.
Oh, absolutely. Good reminder. Brian Balthazar, thank you very much.
Grab your jackets, maybe even your hats and scarves, because it's kind of chilly out there on the East Coast. For more details, time for your morning news now weather.
Angie Lastman's with us. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hi, good morning, guys. You might want to have those handy, but you're not going to need them by this weekend in some of these spots, so don't get too used to grabbing them. We do need them, though, this morning. As Joe mentioned, 80 million people still under these freeze alerts, mostly confined to parts of the Ohio Valley. We've got a bit into parts of the southeast, and then, of course, up and down parts of the northeast, too. And temperatures ranging from kind of the upper 30s for places like Chicago to the low 40s for Pittsburgh and Atlantic City, and even as far south as Charlotte to Tallahassee, seeing those low 40s. Tampa waking up to 55 degrees this morning. So some chilly air has sunk a little farther to the south along the Gulf Coast. You're feeling it too. We've got kind of a setup, though, where we've got two things happening. We've got the cooler than normal temperatures and the very fall-like feel across the east, but you look towards the plains and we are feeling more like September, say, so late summer kind of vibes for Minneapolis and Des Moines today as our temperatures head back to the low 70s. We've got mid-80s across the Dakotas. We've got parts of Kansas and Colorado checking into the mid-70s later today. That warmth spreads a little farther to the east. This is why I said you probably won't need the scarves here for much longer, because we've got temperatures expected to head back to the upper 60s for Chicago and Green Bay for your afternoon temperatures tomorrow. We've got New York set to be right where you should be, around mid-60s for tomorrow. And then into the weekend, we get even warmer. The 70s return in full force for Chicago this weekend. We've got low 70s on Saturday, mid 70s as we end the weekend and head into the next work week. Even warmer for Washington, D.C. on Monday with 76 degrees. Similar story for Louisville as these temperatures start to get back to those warmer than normal temperatures across this region. Now, meanwhile, across parts of the West, we're going to be unsettled. We've got some snow, we've got some rain to talk about. So there's a couple of fronts that are going to work in. They will give us kind of a reinforcing shot of cold air across that region, so you'll notice a bit of a temperature difference. But the rain and the snow is what's most concerning for kind of impacting plans over the next couple of days. This is mainly going to be centered across parts of the Rockies, but we could see some flooding concerns, specifically across Arizona and New Mexico as we gear up for some heavy rain. This is a look at Friday. Also, some gusty winds and some snow levels that are going to be at the lower elevations. So it's not just the high elevation snow that we'll watch. This is going to stay with us on Saturday as well. We'll still be dealing with the flood threat too, so something to watch. Those snow showers will eventually start to kind of diminish across the Rockies on Saturday, but of course we'll still be dealing with a little bit of rain. Big picture look though for your weekend, mostly dry across most of the country. There's that snow and wind that I talked about for the Rockies, but elsewhere great conditions. Tomorrow we'll have plenty of sunshine across the east. More of the same here as we get into Saturday. Lots of sunshine for the west too. Just that one kind of pesky storm system that's going to leave us with some unsettled weather for the Rockies, and then that warmth sticks with us, guys. I know a lot of people have fall kind of plans, pumpkin patches and all that stuff, but you're going to be dealing with the 70s. So leave the scarves at home if you live, I don't know, Ohio Valley, Midwest, Great Lakes, all of that.
Pumpkin patches and shorts.
Yes.
There we go.
Tis the season.
So crazy when it goes so up and down. I've been liking the chill. Angie, thank you. Much more to come here on Morning News Now later this hour. Booking ahead. A top travel site is unpacking next year's big trends. We'll show you the spots that could inspire your next trip.
Up first after the break, a high-profile murder case back in the spotlight. The latest on the campaign to free the Mendez brothers more than 3 decades after their parents' murder. Stay with us. We're back now with new developments in the case of Eric and Lyle Mendez. They're currently serving life sentences for killing their parents in 1989. The Los Angeles County District Attorney is now considering whether to recommend resentencing the brothers in light of new evidence that may back their allegations of sexual abuse. More than a dozen members of the Mendez family are demanding their release. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has the latest.
It's the latest twist for the notorious Mendez brothers, several of their family members calling for their release.
Their actions, while tragic, were the desperate response of 2 boys trying to survive the unspeakable cruelty of their father.
Among those supporting Eric and Lyle Mendez, the 92-year-old sister of Kitty Mendez, who was murdered by her sons in 1989, along with her husband Jose in their Beverly Hills home.
If Lyle and Eric's case were heard today, with the understanding we now have about abuse and PTSD, there is no doubt in my mind that their sentencing would have been very different.
Relatives of both Kitty and Jose arguing new evidence under review by the LA District Attorney backs the brothers' long-standing claim they acted in self-defense after years of abuse by their father.
I grew up knowing and feeling something wasn't right. The feeling in their house and the father-son interactions were just off.
The brothers, currently serving life without parole, getting renewed attention sparked by the popular new Netflix series. But the family is split. An attorney for Kitty's brother says he believes his nephews were motivated by greed and wants them to remain behind bars.
Does your client believe the brothers' claim that they acted in self-defense after years of physical and sexual abuse?
Milton Anderson does not believe that. But should those allegations have been true, it doesn't excuse what they did to their parents. And it doesn't excuse the murders that they committed.
And I spoke with the LA District Attorney. He tells me that he has not yet made a decision about resentencing, but that he does believe the brothers' claims they were molested, and he does not believe they should spend the rest of their life in prison. He says he hopes to make a decision about his recommendation within the next 10 days. Back to you.
Liz Kreutz, thank you so much. For more, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Good to have you with us. So the district attorney says he needs about 10 days to make his decision. Does that sound about right? What's he weighing here?
I don't know this, but I think in all likelihood the decision has largely been made. Yesterday after the press conference, the DA's office had the opportunity to speak with family members, which is interesting. But I mean, I could show you dozens of criminal defendants' family members who also want them out of prison. So while it's fascinating fascinating. It's rarely the most compelling thing that a DA's office considers when reevaluating a decades-old conviction. So I guess good for them, but that doesn't make it all that unusual that the family wants them out, because not even their entire family wants them out, as we've seen.
As we heard in that piece there, a lot of this conversation is resting on the fact that attitudes and understandings have changed here about sexual abuse. That certainly matters in the of public opinion, but in a courtroom, how does that attitude come into play here? What does that actually mean for their case?
You know, when you look at the history of different criminal cases, you can see pretty easily, just a few decades ago, how different society's sensibilities were. And there's no question that we look more closely. We're more protective of children now than we were 35 years ago. We're more conscious of things like abuse, which probably went even more underreported back then. But that being said, we kind of already had a laboratory experiment in this case, because they were almost acquitted the first time around when the Mendez brothers were allowed to introduce almost all of the same abuse evidence that's being brought up now. There are two discrete items that were not admitted or not known at the first trial and are now known. But otherwise, at the first trial, they were allowed to introduce evidence of their abuse, and they were almost acquitted. The trial ended in a mistrial. The jury was deadlocked. And the second time around, they were not allowed to introduce that abuse evidence, and they were convicted. So while society's views on this issue have changed dramatically, even back then, they almost got acquitted.
This case has received so much national attention in just the last few weeks. How much does or should a DA consider how the public feels about this, how the family feels about this, keeping in mind this is a DA who's up for re-election soon, so that may weigh on his decision?
This is just my personal opinion. This seems to be a very politically motivated second look at a conviction. If you asked me on the spectrum as a criminal defense attorney of all the criminal defendants I've known, who are the most deserving of this kind of executive clemency, and that's kind of what it is, packaged as a resentencing, but this is essentially the DA's office undoing a conviction that it secured 30-plus years ago. If you were to ask me who were the most deserving 3-4 weeks ago, the Mendez brothers would have been in the middle to the low end. I mean, there are a lot of people who are at least whodunits who are sitting in prison. There's no question that these defendants or these two brothers killed their parents, lied to the police about it, went on a shopping spree, and were only confessed to it when they were finally caught. So, look, do we have different views now today than we used to about child abuse? Absolutely. Are there a lot of criminal defendants sitting in prison for life who have been abused? Yes, I would say a large number have been. So good for these defendants if they can get out, but I am surprised because I wouldn't have put them in my top 100 of most deserving clemency petitions.
High-profile cases are a fascinating animal, aren't they?
And you know what else is fascinating is the DA's TikTok right now, the way that he is using it.
We need a whole nother segment.
I know, but just go take a watch if you got a second. It's interesting. Yep. Thanks, Danny. Coming up, Election Day, less now than 3 weeks away, and we are diving deep into some of the biggest issues. When we come back, we'll break down one of former President Trump's major campaign promises on the border crisis.
Plus, the college vote. I'm going to take you to the campus of a school that has the highest college student turnout in the entire nation. You're watching Morning News now. We're back now with a lot more on the election and an in-depth look at one of former President Trump's signature 2024 campaign promises, his plan to deport millions of undocumented immigrants. Recent Scripps polling shows that support for Mr. Trump's mass deportation policy remains high among his base. He is yet to provide details on how he plans to make this promise a reality. NBC's Garrett Hake covers the Trump campaign and has a closer look at the potential impact of this immigration proposal.
It's been the cornerstone policy of Donald Trump's 2024 campaign.
We will not be conquered. We will reclaim our sovereignty.
A mission to deport millions of undocumented migrants living in the United States.
The largest deportation in the history of our country, history of the United States, American history.
A promise that's landing with his base. Mass deportations now signs prominent at this year's RNC, but one that's heavy on rhetoric and light on specifics. Former President Trump saying at an Arizona rally he wants to hire 10,000 new border agents.
We need the agents.
But details thin on how they'd carry out what would be the largest and most logistically complicated immigration operation in our country's history. One group estimating such a mass deportation operation could end up costing $88 billion per year. That's more than 10 times ICE's annual budget. A former Trump administration Border Patrol chief and ICE director telling us the plan would require an unprecedented beefing up of personnel and resources to increase deportations to potentially millions in a matter of months. The recent peak was 1.5 million removals and expulsions in fiscal year 2022.
They would have to scale up in significant ways. You would have to give them more hands, more feet, more capability.
Mr. Trump's similar promises in 2016 didn't materialize, now saying he'd look for help from local officials and law enforcement.
It's going to be the local police are going to turn them over.
The big problem is law enforcement is already stretched thin.
That's what Aurora, Colorado's police chief told me. His city has become a main focus of Trump's rhetoric. And while the chief admits Aurora is facing an influx of migrants and the challenges that come with them, adding mass deportations to their list of responsibilities could be overwhelming. Would that be a good usage of Aurora Police Department resources in your view? Is that something you can take on?
Again, law enforcement is now taking on the brunt of responsibility on social issues such as homelessness, on substance abuse, on a lot of different things.
And hundreds of thousands of migrants live in so-called sanctuary cities that likely wouldn't want anything to do with this plan. The former president also telling Time magazine he's considering using the military. But federal law bars the military from being deployed against civilians regardless of immigration status. It's possible that talking so tough and disrupting enough lives could cause many migrants to self-deport.
I think some of those people, given an opportunity to return home, to go be with their family, to be repatriated in certain locations, would take that opportunity.
A decision that immigration activist Alba Jaramillo says would lead to families being torn apart.
They'll self-elect to separate, but not because they want to, because they really have no choice.
Mr. Trump, talking to me back in August, was vague on how he'd make sure that didn't happen. Will you separate families to get to those goals?
Provisions will be made, but we have to get the criminals out.
Despite labeling many migrants as criminals, the data tells a different story. An NBC News review earlier this year found overall crime levels dropping in cities that received the most migrants. And a recent report from the DOJ's National Institute of Justice, analyzing data from Texas, found that undocumented immigrants are arrested at less than half the rate of native-born citizens for violent and drug crimes. Still, voters trust Trump on immigration more. But the Harris campaign has pointed to Trump and his allies killing the bipartisan border security bill earlier this year. There also may be voters like the daughter of this undocumented immigrant, who asked us not to reveal her identity due to her immigration status, who could counterbalance Trump's appeal to his base. Your daughter, who's an American citizen, your daughter's going to vote in this election. How much will this issue be front of mind for her?
As someone who can cast her vote and has that right to, she will vote to support me as a mother and to support other families that are in the same situation.
And Jaramillo tells me mass deportation could lead to economic chaos around the country.
Our food is cultivated by our immigrant communities. Our houses are built by immigrants. Should we lose those contributions, our economy would completely fall apart.
A cost Team Trump dismisses. Whether they can execute on it is another question.
Our thanks to Garrett Hake for that report. Immigration is one of the top issues for voters. Mr. Trump has said if elected, he plans to use the Alien Enemies Act, which was passed in 1798 and used in times of war, as a way to carry out his plans for mass deportation.
We're sticking with the election, and now we're going to head to Nebraska, where if the election is close enough, a single congressional district now spotted with blue dots could decide who wins the White House. Reporter Brian Mastry for NBC station in Omaha has the story.
The blue dot marks the spot in the Nebraska district that could break an electoral college tie this November. And now that the threat of changing Nebraska to a winner-take-all state is over, the spray-painted blue dot has been surfacing more and more in Omaha front yards.
Some people don't know what it is, but then they immediately realize, if they're aware of politics and the electoral college and how things work in this country, oh, I get it.
It represents Democrats' hopes to win Congressional District 2, and with it, one key electoral vote in an otherwise red state in the middle of the country. That's because while most states have a winner-take-all system, Nebraska, like Maine, accounts for wins inside congressional districts.
The Blue Dots are just making conversations and starting conversations about voting this year and how important that is.
Congressional District 2 is the purple outlier in the state's largest and most diverse city.
Yes, completely Bacon-Harris.
Mary Barrett is a lifelong Nebraska Democrat, but she supports the Republican congressional candidate, Don Bacon. And history shows there are plenty more voters like Mary. In 2020, Republican Don Bacon won his district by 5 points, while Biden beat Trump by 7.
I'm a Democrat. I'm a Harris-Bacon voter.
Ann Ashford's late husband represented this district in Nebraska in the U.S. House of Representatives before Republican Don Bacon beat him in 2016.
That constituents are always more important than political parties. It's vital to keep a level head and be the adult in the room.
Since 1992, when Nebraska changed its law to split its electoral votes, the Nebraska Blue Dot has only actually been blue twice, for Obama in 2008 and Biden in 2020. And both times the Republican congressional candidate won. With the rise of the Blue Dot in Omaha, Trump supporters are getting creative with their signs too. This homeowner has a red dot with Trump's signature hair on it, only it's been turned into Pac-Man. His appetite is to take down those blue dots. Here's the key. With Republican and Democratic voter registrations fairly even here, there are 100,000 independents. Those voters will decide whether 5 electoral votes go to Donald Trump or 4 go to Donald Trump and 1 to Kamala Harris. Reporting from Omaha, NBC station WWT, I'm Brian Mastry.
If this presidential election is like the last one, then about 2/3 of college students will vote. That's right. In 2020, 66% of college students cast a ballot. That was a huge increase over 2016. That may sound high to you, but this morning we're going to take you to a school that blew past this number by more than 20 points. In fact, no other school in the country has higher turnout. So what's their secret? Well, to find out, we traveled to my home state of Minnesota, where voting is seen as a civic responsibility, or as one professor told me, maybe something's in the water. On this college campus in rural Minnesota,
have you pledged to vote?
Democracy starts with a question.
Have you pledged to vote?
One that usually fetches
Have you pledged to vote?
the same answer.
Thank you. A lot of people have said yes, which is really cool.
Sophie Smith is an election ambassador at St. Olaf College, a small liberal arts school 40 miles south of Minneapolis.
Wow. Isn't that fancy? I think it's so fun.
A place where students like her help students like Corey register to vote.
It's good to know that I'm all set on voting day, so it's a little weight off my chest for sure.
The school has 120 nonpartisan election ambassadors, and they're everywhere, from the student center to freshman classrooms, answering all kinds of questions.
So we want to walk you through some of the resources we've got on campus to help y'all decide where to vote, kind of get candidate positions.
We sat down with 4 ambassadors, Elijah, Madeline, Sophie, and Roxy.
I was able to help some people, and I was like, okay, I want to do that again.
The nonpartisan part of this is important, right?
It's huge.
Why is that?
Making sure that everyone's voice is heard is the most important part, no matter what party or no party you support.
Their approach is working. In 2020, St. Olaf's turnout was nearly 88%, earning the school trophies for best in state and nation.
How does it feel to have the best college voter turnout in the country?
It's cool because we're a small school in Northfield, Minnesota. I don't know, I have fun with it because people come up to us and they're matching your energy and they're passionate about the things that you are passionate about, and that's really cool.
Key to their success, peer-to-peer connections using networks that already exist.
For example, I'm in a band that has 100 people in it, and so I get up every year that there's an election and I stand up in front of everyone and I say, hi, you all know me. This is a very cool thing that's happening where we encourage voter turnout.
We saw it firsthand with Jessica Olson, a first-time voter.
And we have a polling place on campus, so day of, you'll be all set.
Those are my friends from dance, and so when I saw them, I was like, oh yeah, of course I'll do this.
Political science professor Chris Chapp advises the ambassadors.
Voting has an inertia to it. When students become a first-time voter,
They're more likely to vote in future elections.
When you are a college student and maybe it's your first time voting and you're living in a place that's far from home, there are a lot of obstacles to voting, right?
Not as many in Minnesota. We're sort of starting on third base here.
You see, Minnesota led the nation in overall voter turnout the last 3 presidential elections. Experts point to the laws, including same-day voter registration and early voting, policies often missing from states with lower turnout.
We believe that when it comes to young people and voting, we don't actually have an apathy problem. We have an access problem.
Jen McAndrew is with the Tisch Center of Civic Life at Tufts University. Researchers there say since 2020, 5 states have made it harder for young people to vote by adding strict photo ID requirements: Florida, Nebraska, South Carolina, Ohio, and Wyoming.
They say it's about election integrity, or they say they're worried about fraud. What do we know? Is that a legitimate concern?
We know that voter fraud is extremely unlikely and very low. And I think what these laws are actually doing is restricting access to voting.
At St. Olaf, students seemed extra cautious.
I thought I registered to vote in Massachusetts, but then I think I also did in Minnesota. And now I just want to make sure that I'm not committing voter fraud.
As long as you only vote in one place, yes, then you are not committing voter fraud. Yeah. Good question, though. Very important.
Yeah. And while St. Olaf is proud to be the best in the nation, these Minnesota nice students would rather share that honor.
Have you pledged to vote?
With every other school.
Yay! Thank you.
Now, researchers at Tisch say the states that make it easiest for young people to vote are Minnesota, Michigan, Illinois, Virginia, and California. No matter where you live, experts say college kids need to know the rules. Visit the Secretary of State's website to know the laws. If you decide to vote in your home state, make sure you get that absentee ballot requested and returned on time. If you decide to vote where you attend school, make sure you're registered and know the voter ID rules. And if you have any troubles on Election Day, experts say, remember, you can file a provisional ballot. It's complicated, and for many of these students, you have to remember, it's their first time voting on top of everything else.
And you've moved states in many cases.
Exactly.
Those students are so awesome.
They're great. It really is a brilliant effort, and it clearly works. I mean, nearly 90% of students on that campus vote. Those are unreal numbers.
Yeah, and really cute when she was like, those are my friends from dance. Like, it makes a difference when someone you know is encouraging you.
The research shows that's what makes a difference, too. Peer-to-peer connections.
Yeah, awesome. Great story. Coming up, if you're already thinking about a getaway for next year, this one is for you.
That's right. A top travel site is unpacking some of the top destinations for 2025. We're looking ahead so you can book ahead. Next on Morning News. We're back now with some financial headlines. Another round of student loan relief has just arrived from the Biden administration.
CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and other news. Hey, Silvana.
Hey, Savannah. Hey, Joe. Good morning, too. So, yeah, the Biden administration announcing today it's forgiving another $4.5 billion in student loan debt for more than 60,000 borrowers. The latest round comes from the Department of Education's fixed to the popular and previously troubled public service loan forgiveness program. That program, which was signed into law by President George W. Bush, allows certain nonprofit and government employees such as teachers, nurses, firefighters, and more to have their federal student loans canceled after 10 years. Eligible borrowers should learn about their canceled debt in the coming weeks. Uber has reportedly explored a possible takeover bid for Expedia as it pushes to become a super app. The Financial Times says Uber hasn't officially reached out, and the idea was initially floated by a third party. Expedia has a market value of about $20 billion, which would make it Uber's biggest acquisition ever. Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi was Expedia's CEO until 2017 and is still on the board. And nearly 40% of credit card holders say they've maxed out a card or come close since the Federal Reserve began raising interest rates in 2022. A new Bankrate survey finds a majority of people blame inflation and high prices for maxing out a card, along with paying for emergency expenses, having credit card debt, loss of job or income, medical costs, or not having a budget. Since the start of this year, 30% of Americans say they've missed at least one monthly payment on a bill due to a financial reason, guys.
All right. Savannah, thank you so much.
Well, it's hard to believe that we're just a few months out from 2025. And while some of us are certainly trying to just get through this year, the people over at...
Just today.
So true. We're just like the next holiday. The people over at Expedia Group are ahead of the game.
The company just released its annual Unpack 25 list. It's an outlook packed with trends that might make you catch the travel bug next year.
Expedia travel expert Melanie Fish is here to help us dig into this list and tell us about what we might all be trying to do next year, starting with one that sounds pretty cool, detour destinations. What exactly does that mean and why do people like it?
Yeah, let's talk about the destinations of the year. We looked at where people are searching for flights in the coming year. And the thing they all had in common is that they were these detour destinations. Detour in a good way. They're detours from more popular, more crowded destinations. You're still going to go to Paris. You're still going to see the Eiffel Tower, but you're going to spend a couple days in Rennes, getting into champagne culture, a short train ride away. You're going to go to Tokyo. Who doesn't want to go to Tokyo? But then Fukuoka is the detour destination from there. You can really dive into the food scene there. So the idea is that you're still going to go to the places everyone wants to go, but not spend as much time there, spread it out a little bit. It also really helps fight over tourism, which is another reason I like this trend. And this is a global look at the data. And so a lot of people are going to be coming to LA and take a drive up the coast and check out Santa Barbara. Completely different vibe.
Plenty of places around LA to check out. The list also suggests nature phenomena are something that are drawing people to certain places. What is that? Are we talking Northern Lights, which we just saw, or what are we talking about?
Exactly. So I say this is all because of the eclipse this year. When the eclipse happened, every single private vacation home in the path of totality pretty much booked up. So Verbo saw that people really wanted to be together with their friends and family to experience this once-in-a-lifetime natural phenomena. And so now there is this phenomena list of other natural phenomena that people really want to see. Northern Lights is at the top of the list. The synchronous fireflies in Tennessee are another one. The bioluminescence, which is available to see in several parts of the world. And the thing that these places all have in common is that they're often outside of cities where there aren't so many hotels to choose from, which makes sense. Out in nature, people are renting the private vacation homes.
Very interesting. Okay, so a big trend we've been talking about, travel and otherwise, in the last couple of years is, of course, artificial intelligence or anything we see on social media. How does technology like that impact how we're traveling and what might change in the new year?
Well, I saw that people were using artificial intelligence for inspiration, trying to cull down all the information available to get maybe what are the highlights of a place to go. I think next year, artificial intelligence is going to kind of jump from the inspiration to the in-trip phase. So we have a product called Romy at Expedia, which will kind of be the on-your-phone tool that's going to say, okay, where should I go to eat tonight? I'm already on my trip. So I think that's the next phase.
We have like 15 seconds here, but just with this year's travel rush for the holidays, what's the best advice you can give folks?
Book before Halloween. So if you look at all the data over flight bookings for the whole year, you're going to save an average of $150 on your flights if you go ahead and book those flights before Halloween.
Got it. I looked at tickets yesterday and cried. So, all right.
I'm not even thinking about that yet. I'm Melanie Fish. Thank you very much. Great stuff.
Thanks. Coming up, collecting change to make change.
Up next, how a man with a peanut stand is working to keep healthy lunches at schools. You'll love the story. This is Morning News Now. Welcome back. Finally, this hour, one man in Georgia is doing his part to help kids get a healthy lunch at school.
Reporter Caitlin Ross from our Atlanta affiliate 11 Alive News shows us how he's using change from his peanut stand to pay it forward.
Alongside a stretch of road in Cleveland, Georgia, you can find peaches, watermelons, and a farm stand classic known to some as Southern caviar.
Boiled peanut. Would you like to try one?
From April to November, you can find Michael Metters, Papa Mike as regulars call him, selling boiled peanuts. And like caviar, it can be an acquired taste.
I'm not a fan. If they say they like them, I'll tell them you're hooked.
But it's not just the taste that makes customers crack a smile. For years, Mike has been paying it forward with peanuts.
$14.
Yes, sir.
How about 15?
They got change coming back. Just put it in the kids' lunch thing, you know? That makes you feel good.
Collecting change at his stand to clear lunch debts for students at schools in White County. It started after one conversation with the district in 2017.
It's very meaningful to the kids. We have a lot of families who are struggling right now.
So Mike decided to help. In total, the district says he's donated nearly $16,000 from donations and profits.
I cry sometimes. Easy. Some people just, it breaks your heart. Even though I got tears running there, that still makes me feel real good that I've got to help someone.
Small gestures creating a lasting impact. Caitlin Ross, NBC News, Cleveland, Georgia.
Oh my gosh, okay.
That is lovely.
Way
more than peanuts there.
I mean, wow, geez.
What a great story. I'm glad we could share that with our
Amazing man.
audience, and hopefully that will inspire others to do something similar. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thanks for joining us this Thursday. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, a searing war of words taking shape in the race for the White House. Vice President Harris and former President Trump ramping up the rhetoric in dueling campaign appearances on Fox News. Less than 20 days to go until Election Day. The controversial new comments from Mr. Trump on IVF that are now raising eyebrows among female voters. A violent escalation in the Middle East, the U.S. striking several weapons storage facilities in Yemen used by Iran-backed Houthi rebels. But what does that mean for those ever-growing threats of a wider war in the region? We're on the ground with the latest as Israel responds to an ultimatum from America over Gaza. Plus, a shock to the world of music this morning. Former One Direction star Liam Payne dead at just age 31 after falling from a hotel balcony in Argentina. We'll bring you what we know as fans across the globe react to this untimely tragedy. And later in the hour, we're going to dig into some brand new features on Instagram just announced this morning aimed at protecting teens from the growing threat of sextortion. We'll sit down with Meta's global head of safety and ask whether the new measures, including tighter controls on explicit photos, will be enough to keep young people safe. It's also part of a campaign they're putting out there to try and educate people on this important issue that parents are deeply worried about.
Absolutely, and have a lot of questions, by the way, about how it will work.
Exactly. All right, we're going to start this hour with the race to the White House. We're now just 19 days away from Election Day. Both candidates making last-ditch efforts to sway voters in those critical swing states.
Yeah, Vice President Harris is on the ground in Wisconsin today. That's after a tense interview with Fox News where she was grilled about the border crisis. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander has more.
Hey, Joe and Savannah, good morning. Vice President Harris with that interview on Fox News, really looking to expand her appeal with independents and conservatives. The interview, a calculated risk, but also an opportunity the campaign sees to try to reach voters who rarely hear Harris unedited. Vice President Kamala Harris in a rare and combative interview with conservative Fox News.
May I finish responding, please?
Starting with a clash over immigration. When asked how many undocumented immigrants have crossed the border under the Biden-Harris administration, slamming former President Trump's opposition to a bipartisan border bill.
It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right now,
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
Harris also seizing on Trump's repeated comments attacking his political opponents as evil and dangerous.
He's the one who talks about an enemy within. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
The former president online insisting the appearance showed Harris is totally incompetent. Asked why polls show nearly half of voters support a second Trump presidency, Harris took another swipe at Trump.
To be a
So are
cakewalk
they
for
misguided, the
anyone.
50%?
Listen,
Are they stupid? What is
God,
it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people.
And the vice president, who's faced criticism for saying she wouldn't do anything differently from President Biden, trying to combat that Republican line of attack, responding last night.
My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
So what's behind this strategy by Harris? A Harris campaign official tells NBC News that they believe movable voters move late and that they think there are a number of Republicans and independents that are put off by former President Trump, including some who voted for former presidential candidate Nikki Haley, who, by the way, got nearly 17% of the primary vote in Pennsylvania. That's in part why Harris campaigned in Pennsylvania with about 100 Republicans yesterday, and recently with Liz Cheney vowing to put a Republican in her cabinet. Back to you.
Peter, thank you.
Well, the former president is firing back at VP Harris today, defending his mental acuity and ability to serve in office. He also made pleas to both female and Latino voters in 2 separate town halls as part of these last-minute pushes to gain critical support in battleground states. NBC News' Garrett Hake joins us with more details from Trump's town hall. Garrett, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning to you. And yeah, these town halls provided something of a rare opportunity to hear Donald Trump take questions directly from voters on topics that go beyond his typical stump speech. On issues like IVF and on his own controversial comments about Democrats and about immigrants, he gave voters plenty to consider.
Former President Trump pushing back about questions on his fitness for office. On Wednesday, during a Fox News town hall, the former president responding to criticism about those comments calling Democrats enemies from within.
I wasn't unhinged. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone.
And raising eyebrows with his comments about in vitro fertilization in front of an audience of all women, a key demographic where he has struggled.
I'm the father of IVF, so I want to hear this question.
The former president arguing he's defended the procedure after having it explained to him by Republican Senator Katie Britt.
I got a call from Katie Britt, a young, just a fantastically attractive person from Alabama. She's a senator. I said, explain IVF very quickly. And within about 2 minutes, I understood it. I said, no, we're totally in favor of IVF.
Vice President Harris firing back.
Donald Trump, I found it to be quite bizarre, actually called himself the father of IVF. Let's not be distracted by his choice of words. The reality is his actions have been very harmful to women and families.
It comes as Trump is also trying to expand his support among Latino voters, a group Republicans have made inroads with, discussing immigration in a town hall on Univision.
And the African-American population and the Hispanic population in particular are losing jobs now because millions of people are coming in.
But asked to clarify his debunked claims based on social media rumors that immigrants in Springfield, Ohio are eating pets.
I was just saying what was reported, that's been reported, and eating other things, too, that they're not supposed to be.
Meanwhile, Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, who has been cautious about questions surrounding the outcome of the 2020 election, providing his most direct answer yet.
I think there are serious problems in 2020. So did Donald Trump lose the election? Not by the words that I would use.
Now, that Univision town hall opens an interesting topic for us. Latino voters. Our most recent poll of Latino voters gives Harris a 14-point advantage over Donald Trump there. That sounds good. It's much better than Joe Biden was doing before he dropped out of the race, but it's actually significantly worse than any Democratic nominee going back to 2012. At the heart of the problem, defections from Latinos men, especially men under 50 and without college degrees. They are turning to Trump. This is that gender gap appearing again. So I think we can expect to see more of these Latino-focused events and more Spanish-language ads on TV and the radio, probably coming from both of these campaigns as we close out this race. Savannah?
All right, Garrett, thank you so much.
We turn now to breaking news out of the Middle East. The U.S. military carried out airstrikes in Yemen against Iranian-backed Houthis. The Defense Department says it knocked out underground weapons storage facilities that the group has used to target military and civilian vessels at sea. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin joins us now from Tel Aviv with the latest. Aaron, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. That's right. President Biden authorized those strikes against the Houthis in Yemen in order to protect one of the most critical waterways in the world. This as the U.S. calls on Israel to do much more to protect Palestinians in Gaza. Overnight in Yemen, U.S. strikes against Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. For the first time, the U.S. military using B-2 stealth bombers to target the group's weapons storage facilities deep underground. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin calling it a unique demonstration of U.S. capabilities. Drastic action aimed at stopping the reckless attacks by the Houthis, according to CENTCOM. The United States first launched strikes against the militant group back in January, after the Houthis, which control parts of Yemen, started targeting military and commercial ships to show solidarity with Hamas. Meanwhile, the U.S. says it has seen signs of progress in Gaza after the Biden administration gave Israel 30 days to improve the humanitarian situation or face cuts in American military aid.
But there's much more that they need to do.
According to the State Department, the Israelis allowed dozens of aid trucks to enter the Strip on Wednesday. However, NBC News has learned from contacts distributing aid that few of those trucks have reached Gaza City. Hundreds of thousands of starving Palestinians are trapped in Gaza and being bombed, according to human rights groups. Israel says Hamas fighters hide among the civilians. This morning, NBC News obtained this footage from a hospital in the north, showing doctors struggling to keep babies alive due to supply shortages. The Jabalia refugee camp, where Israel has launched a ground offensive, now described as a living hell.
The situation is so bad. It's bad in a way which you couldn't imagine it. Anyone move, they're shooting them, so that the people are stuck. There is no water, no food, no medicine, no anything.
This morning, an Israeli official tells NBC News the Israeli prime minister has held emergency discussions in order to increase the amount of aid getting to Gaza. This as the U.S. State Department says it's watching the situation very closely and wants to see progress made by Israel on that issue so far, not only sustained, but increased. Joe.
All right, Aaron, thank you.
Well, tributes are pouring in from around the world today as fans react to the shocking death of British singer-songwriter Liam Payne. The member of British boy band One Direction died in Argentina Wednesday after falling from a hotel balcony. He was just 31 years old. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas has more on the circumstances around Payne's death and how he's being remembered.
Hey there, this is really shocking news. Liam Payne was just posting on social media hours before local authorities say that he fell from that hotel balcony, and now we're hearing a troubling 911 call made just before the fatal incident.
The death of One Direction singer Liam Payne sending shockwaves across the music industry and beyond. Local authorities telling Telemundo that the 31-year-old music superstar fell from a third-floor balcony at a hotel in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Devastated fans gathering to grieve outside the hotel where it happened. The police were called Wednesday evening after a report of a, quote, aggressive man who could be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. In audio from a 911 call obtained by Telemundo from local media in Argentina, a hotel staff member tells the operator that a guest is overindulged on drugs and alcohol and was tearing up their room. The call does not mention Payne by name, but appears to be from the same hotel where he was staying. The caller telling 911 he's in a room that has a balcony, and we are a little afraid that he will do something that puts his life at risk. In a statement to the Associated Press, the Security Ministry of Buenos Aires says that the singer had jumped from the balcony of his room.
Morning, everybody.
In the hours surrounding his death, these videos and photos were posted to his social media with girlfriend Kate Cassidy.
A lovely day here in Argentina.
Police are said to be investigating the circumstances around Payne's fatal fall and conducting an autopsy.
You're insecure, don't know what for.
As one of the 5 members of One Direction, which included fellow singer Harry Styles, Payne was a part of one of the best-selling boy bands of all time. The group captivating a young and loyal fan base and headlined multiple tours. When One Direction split in 2016, Payne began working on a solo career, even stopping by today to promote his album LP1.
My first album, it's a big moment in your music career, so yeah, it feels amazing.
Offstage, Payne was a father to 7-year-old son, Bear Gray. He also recently opened up about rehab and his struggles with sobriety.
It's the first time I've ever put a drink down and gone to someone else, you finish that, I don't need it. And I haven't picked one up since.
Since then, Payne had started releasing new music. And earlier this month, he was seen waving at fans while attending former One Direction bandmate Niall Horan's concert. The two former bandmates reconnecting as word of the young singer's tragic death spread. Touching tributes from fans and friends flooded social media.
We've made you a little something special.
Charlie Puth sharing this video of the pair together, writing, "Liam was always so kind to me. I cannot believe he is gone." And fellow boy band the Backstreet Boys posting, "Rest in peace, brother."
Exactly what led up to Payne's death is still unclear. Authorities, they really are just hours into their investigation at this point, and they're likely going to run a toxicology screening, which would show if Payne was, in fact, under the influence of any drugs or alcohol when he died. Back to you.
All right, Chloe, thank you so much.
For more, let's bring in entertainment journalist and host of the Baker Show podcast, Baker Machado. Good to have you with us. I mean, this is something that is being felt all around the globe. We saw some of the tributes there. What are some of the other ways people
we've been waiting to see what the other One Direction members have been able to comment on this. So far, nobody has done anything. Not even Simon Cowell, who got the group first started, has even commented on this. The only person connected to One Direction is Harry Styles' mom, who has posted on her own social media saying that he was just a boy with the broken heart emoji. But most of the reaction has been from fans. I mean, One Direction was a global phenomenon across everywhere. So everyone on social media obviously devastated by this news.
Absolutely. We just heard Chloe say they're still investigating the circumstances around this. But what do we know more about that trip? We saw some of those videos, and also just remind us how he's been doing in recent years.
Look, just as Chloe mentioned, his last public appearance was going to see Niall Horan's show in Buenos Aires. That's why he was there to begin with. What adds sort of some mystery to all of this, she was mentioning the Snapchat videos that he had posted with his girlfriend, Kate Cassidy, that he posted yesterday, just hours before he died. Interestingly, Kate Cassidy had posted on her TikTok yesterday, she was actually back in the United States. So we don't even know if Liam Payne, in the hours leading up to his death, was alone or was he with somebody else. Adding to all of this, there is a lawsuit, according to the Daily Mail, that was filed just a few days ago from Liam's ex-fiancée, Maya Henry, claiming that he had been harassing her through texts and emails and all of this stuff. So who knows if that was even a trigger to all of this as well.
So we know One Direction's been on hiatus since 2016. After that, Liam launched a solo career. Talk more about his role in 1D, but also his life since they broke.
A lot of people don't know that he wrote a lot of the songs for One Direction. So he had a very big influence. A lot of people also don't know that he auditioned for the X Factor twice. In 2008, when he auditioned, Simon Cowell told him he was too young to be on the show. He did it again 2 years later, and then he got in the group with the rest of the men, and the rest is history. But as you mentioned, in 2017, about 2016, when the group broke up, he started releasing his own stuff. In 2017, he released Strip That Down with Quavo. That had over 1 billion streams over on Spotify. In 2023, he said he was going to be releasing even more new music, and he was going to be part of a new Spotify show where he was going to be looking for the next big boy band. So he had a lot still to come on the horizon.
It's just such a tragic loss.
It really is.
Expect more tributes to come in the coming days. Baker Machado, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Let's get to your forecast now. A storm system is expected to bring some snow and rain out west. We've got the details in your Morning News Now weather.
Meteorologist Angie Laspin's here. Angie, good morning.
Hi, good morning, guys. Happy Thursday to you. We are going to wrap up our work week with some unsettled weather out west. And it's already getting started. You can see some rain and a little bit of snow across parts of the Pacific Northwest and the Cascades. And we're going to really ramp that up here as we get through the next couple of days. Here's the couple of storm systems we're watching. We have one front and then a secondary front. Now, that secondary front really ushers in a nice push of cold air. This is going to make a difference with our snowfall amounts and expectations of the kind of the elevation that we'll see those significant amounts at. But the heavy rain and the snow will be something that we'll deal with across the Rockies as we get through the day today and specifically into tomorrow, too. One thing to note, it's going to be difficult for travel with those gusty winds also expected. So some snow on the roads in those higher elevations with the gusty winds. Of course, course, we know what that means for travel. And we'll also see some of this heavy rain centered across portions of Arizona and New Mexico. We'll watch for the flooding potential, specifically as we get into the weekend. This is a look at Saturday as that front is still working a little farther to the east. The flood threat will remain specifically for eastern New Mexico. We'll watch for the gusty winds to be an issue there as well. And then the snow showers will start to wrap up here for that first half of our weekend. Rainfall amounts anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches. You can see the area that we're expecting the highest up to 3, maybe even 4 inches. That's that part of eastern, specifically northeastern New Mexico, that we're going to watch for the flooding concerns. But overall, some impressive snowfall amounts as well, up to 2 feet in some of the localized spots. Remember, I said there will be some of this snow accumulation in those lower elevations. This isn't just a high elevation kind of snowfall event across parts of the Rockies. So we'll watch that through at least Saturday. Meanwhile, across the east, it's chilly, feeling, a whole lot like fall for a whole lot of people. 80 million people under these frost alerts, freeze watches, and freeze warnings across this part of the region. We've got the Ohio Valley, parts of the southeast and the northeast included in this as we wake up to temperatures in the 30s and even 40s across this area. Now, a whole lot more 30s on the map this hour. We've got Lexington, Chicago, St. Louis, Tupelo, even as far south as Hattiesburg into the 30s this morning, and the 40s for parts of Florida. Tallahassee just sitting at 40 degrees. Farther south you go, Tampa. It's a chilly morning by Florida standards for you, 56 degrees. And we'll see these kind of temperatures rebound a bit, but most just ending up into the 60s for the afternoon high. You can see Lexington, 61 degrees, mid-60s for Nashville. Birmingham heads to the upper 60s. But that warmth that we're going to watch today over parts of the plains and the Midwest, places like Minneapolis, you'll be in the 70s. That spreads a little farther to the east for tomorrow. So Green Bay, Chicago, you'll see temperatures much warmer than normal for this time of year. You will actually make it into the upper 60s for your afternoon temperatures. And then everybody basically gets a taste of that across the Great Lakes, the Midwest, and stretching out towards the East Coast as we get into the weekend. New York City this weekend, low 70s. We'll see Washington, D.C., guys, by the time we get into our upcoming work week, back to the mid 70s. So coats out today, put them away by the weekend, I guess, is the moral of the story.
Not going to complain.
Yeah, we will not.
Thank you, Angie. Appreciate it. Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including what a new wave of pharmacy closures across the country could mean for your next prescription refill in the coming months.
First, though, with a little more than 2 weeks until Election Day, we're taking a deep dive into foreign misinformation campaigns online that might be influencing American voters. Those stories and more are up next. Welcome back. As we enter this home stretch of the presidential election, officials are warning that foreign misinformation could influence voters.
That misinformation stems from fake videos that initially circulate in Russia, some designed to look like posts from local news websites. NBC News senior reporter Brandy Zabrozny is here to break down step by step how this happens. Brandy, good morning. Good to have you with us.
Good morning. Glad to be here. Yeah, we've spent the last several months collecting basically a year's worth of propaganda from Russia. We tracked over 50 specific pieces of propaganda, false videos, and here's what we found.
Late last year, this strange, and let's just say from the outset, false story started going around about Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky.
Ukrainian President Zelensky somehow managed to buy 2 multi-million-dollar yachts.
Now, to be clear, nothing about the U.S. aid for yacht story was true. What was true? Vladimir Zelensky is the president of Ukraine. That checks out. And there is an ongoing debate about U.S. financial support for Ukraine. But there are a lot of these phony stories. NBC News has followed more than 40 over the last year. Clint Watts is an NBC News contributor. You've likely seen him in our coverage when there's big breaking stories. He's also the head of Microsoft's Threat Intelligence Center. Stories like these, Clint says, come straight through a pipeline, straight from Moscow, via something called Storm 1516.
Storm 1516 is what you would think of for the old troll farm, the Internet Research Agency, 10 years later, in that they need to adapt to a new medium, which is video, and they need to come up with a way to make disinformation.
Think of Storm 1516 almost like a disinformation production company. They follow a reliable path, one that starts with a cheaply made video.
Hey guys, my name is Olesya, and I'm a former employee of the so-called Troll Fabric.
I'm a senior associate scientist at a Pfizer facility in Kiev.
My name is Shahzad Nasser. I'm here to share an interesting discovery of mine.
The videos usually don't stay online long. They don't have to. They are just the kernels of so-called evidence in the pipeline.
According to this agreement I have managed to acquire, the yacht was referred to as Zelensky's yacht.
In this video, this isn't an actual journalist. His bio is faked, his true identity unknown. But his story is repackaged and amplified through the next part of the disinformation pipeline.
They then take those videos and they launder it through Telegram.
Telegram is a social media site popular with people kind of on the fringe,
But also through a series of websites that are made to look like local news sites.
The stories on those sites are shared on social media, first by known Russian propagandists, but then, if the plan works, by a U.S. audience. In this case, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene sharing the story with her 3.7 million followers. Her office didn't respond to our multiple requests for comment. The pipeline that began in Russia, now practically flooding American voters with disinformation. And here's the thing, these videos that kick it all off, they're not even that sophisticated. Darren Linville, director of Clemson's Media Forensics Hub, says they don't have to be.
More than half, I would say, almost completely fail. But it doesn't matter because they're so cheap to do that you only need a few of them to hit to make it entirely worthwhile. And they've had more than a few hits.
These videos are now targeting U.S. voters, trying to conflate fact and fiction and create havoc heading into the election.
Randy, first of all, what a production. Fascinating to see. Very cool the way that you use that technology. Now, I know you've covered this in past campaigns. We've all gotten very comfortable with terms like Russian collusion because we've talked about this before. But what are you seeing this time that's different? How's this compare?
Well, really, it's the technology first, right? This pivot to video that we've seen news organizations do. Also, the Russian propaganda environment has done that. The second thing is using existing right-wing media people to spread their message, like the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing we saw. When we have our own people willing to spread this message, why not just use them? They've done that. And the third is really that the platforms have abdicated responsibility, and these fringe platforms like Telegram, now like X, have really decided not to do anything. So these things are just spreading like crazy.
Wow.
This is why news literacy is so important. And people need to know the source of something before they share it. What should everyday users be on the lookout for?
Well, 100%. And the good news here is that, like you saw, these narratives are ludicrous, right? So if you're coming across something that says a whistleblower says X, Y, Z, and the thing seems too crazy to be believed, it usually is.
Really good information.
Randy, appreciate it. Common sense. That's why they call it logic, is what we used to call it back in the day.
Yes.
So, all right, Brandy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brandy.
Let's turn to new developments in the case of the Mendez brothers, who were found guilty of killing their parents more than 3 decades ago. Yesterday, a large crowd gathered at a press conference held by more than a dozen family members of Eric and Lyle Menendez. It all comes as the L.A. District Attorney examines new evidence in this case. Here's NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz with the latest.
Well, hey there, it was a mob scene outside the courthouse. There was so much renewed interest in this decades-old double murder case. Several family members supporting Eric and Lyle showed up to add pressure to the district attorney, who is currently weighing whether to recommend resentencing. I spoke to the DA after the event, and while he has not yet made up his mind, he did indicate a degree of sympathy towards the brothers and told me he does not believe they should spend the rest of their lives in prison.
Outside a Los Angeles courthouse, family members of Eric and Lyle Menendez pleading for their release.
Lyle and Eric were failed by the very people who should have protected them, by their parents, by the system, by society at large.
Among their supporters, the 92-year-old sister of Kitty Menendez, who was shot to death by her sons back in 1989, along with her husband Jose, in their Beverly Hills home. The relatives arguing new evidence under review by the L.A. District Attorney backs the brothers' long-standing claim that they acted in self-defense after years of sexual and physical abuse by their father.
It is time for them to be released and for all of us to move on and continue healing as a family.
The brothers, both currently serving life without parole, receiving renewed attention thanks to several new documentaries and the popular Netflix series Monsters.
Eric, we did it!
Good afternoon.
The family's news conference attracting a massive crowd of media and sympathetic true crime fans.
We didn't know the other side, what happened with them as childs after they were being abused or molested.
But the Menendez family is not unanimous in their support. Kitty's 90-year-old brother is adamant his nephews should remain behind bars and does not believe their claims of abuse.
Milton Anderson does not believe that. And he believes that it was really just motivated by greed.
But the LA District Attorney telling NBC News he does believe the brothers.
Do you believe that the Mendez brothers should have to spend the rest of their life in prison?
You know, I don't. I think that there is a certain level of evidence that points out that there were a lot of problems in the household.
The DA says he is still reviewing evidence, but signaled his support for re-examining their sentences.
In fact, after 35 years of good behavior, they're ready to be reintegrated in society, then I think that that would be appropriate. But again, we haven't decided.
Now, as for what's next, the DA says he's talking with the prosecutors handling the case inside his office, who he says don't all agree on whether to recommend resentencing. He also plans to review Eric and Lyle's prison files to assess if they have indeed rehabilitated and what steps they've taken to become better people. The DA says he hopes to make a decision within the next 10 days. And if he does make that recommendation, it would then go to a judge who would make the ultimate decision. Back to you.
All right, Liz, thank you. Finding a pharmacy to get your prescription refilled can be tough, and things may get a bit harder with Walgreens now planning to close several locations. Earlier this week, the pharmacy chain announced that over the next 3 years, it'll close about 1,200 stores. The news comes as other chains like Rite Aid and CVS are also shuttering hundreds of branches across the country. NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans joins us now with more on what this means for you. Christine, good morning. So first of all, just walk us through Walgreens' decision here.
Yeah, these are money-losing sites. It'll be about 500 next year, and altogether about 1,200 of these stores will go away over the next 3 years or so. They have 8,000 stores right now. And a couple of things happening, really a perfect storm here. You've got labor shortages in some cases. You've got really high prices for the front of the store goods because of inflation. And so customers have other choices. They're not buying the stuff in the front of the store like they used to when they were going there and waiting for their prescription. And also a change in how much money they're reimbursed from pharmacy benefit managers, like the middlemen between the insurance companies, the drug producers, the drug manufacturers, and the stores. So a lot of different things happening all at once, making it unprofitable for some of these locations, and they will close those.
So let's talk about the impact for just the everyday American who might rely on a store like this. Should people be concerned about a possible shortage of pharmacies?
Well, there had been vast expansion of these pharmacy sites, all kinds of these big chain pharmacies over the past few years, and they just expanded in the current economic climate just too much. So you're going to roll back a lot of those places. There will be other options for people. A lot of people are using online pharmacies. That's part of the pressure here. You've got some insurers prefer that you do a 90-day supply via mail. There are also other stores that people should consider. You know, in parts of the country, grocery stores and grocery store chains have pharmacies. So there's shopping, there's gas, and there's pharmacies in those. So you might have to, if your Walgreens or your CVS or your Rite Aid closes, you might have to find another option.
So if you're living in an area impacted by these closures, what are maybe some alternative options to get those prescriptions filled?
There's some concern about something called pharmacy deserts, and where those would happen, it could be really tough for people. I was just speaking to a woman this morning who said that the Walgreens near her is the only one for 20 miles in Vermont, and that will be a problem if that Walgreens closes because a lot of people don't have access to these places. Look, you can go try to do an online pharmacy, find an online pharmacy. You can also, make sure, again, you're doing that 90-day prescription so that you don't have to go as often. But you might have to do a little bit of homework, to find your alternative pharmacy.
Yeah, if you do decide to go online, I've been doing that for the last couple of years. It's worked well for me, but I also live in New York City. How can you ensure the site you're picking is safe?
Yeah, so this is really important here because you want to do a little bit of homework. You want to make sure that there's a pharmacist on staff that you can actually talk to. You want to make sure that it's a place that requires a doctor's prescription. You want to make sure that it has a U.S. phone number and a U.S. address, that you can get in touch with it, that it's not just some online amorphous place that you can't check out. And then you can also go to the FDA's website, Be Safe RX, where you can take a look at the FDA's website to just double check and match against the FDA that it is known to the FDA and authorized.
All right, Christine, some good information. Thank you as always.
Coming up, safety is in the spotlight over at Instagram this morning.
After the break, the brand new feature is looking to protect you and your kids from a concerning online trend, financial sextortion. Stay with us. We will chat with Meta's global head of safety on that next.
Welcome back. Concerns about the potential harms of social media for kids and teens are rarely out of the news, right? Well, Instagram in particular has come under criticism for how teens can be tricked into sending explicit images of themselves to criminals who then threaten them with having those images revealed. That practice is known as financial sextortion. This morning, Instagram's parent company Meta is announcing new measures aimed at protecting teens from sextortion. They include hiding information about their accounts and tighter controls around explicit images. Meta's global head of safety, Antigone Davis, is here to tell us about these new features and how to keep your kids safe. Antigone, always good to see you. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Nice to see you too.
Let's just start with, I know I just gave a little bit of an explainer, but as somebody who is aware of what goes on your platform, what this sextortion looks like, financial sextortion, what that means that these criminals want from your child.
Yeah, well, first of all, this is a crime that happens across the internet, and that's important because these scammers will actually go from start the crime on one platform and then move you to another platform to finish the crime, to evade efforts to detect what they're doing. But what this crime is basically tricking someone into giving an intimate image and then threatening to share that with your friends or family and then asking you to pay them to stop them from sharing it.
I know I just mentioned there's new features, and we're going to get into the details of those. But in addition to that, you're also launching this PSA that, as I understand it, will essentially kind of be forced into the feeds of teens and young adults. Tell us what content that is and why you think that could help.
Yeah, so this builds on the protections, as you said, that we have in teen accounts, as well as our ongoing efforts to fight sextortion. But what this does is it's a video that is right in the feed of millions of teens in the U.S. that basically tells them, here's what sextortion is, here's how to spot it, and here's where you can go to get help.
Those new features, I'll just tick some of them off and then ask you some questions about them. One of them is that should an account look like it is behaving in a scammy way, they're not going to be able, in some cases, to actually try to friend request a teen and therefore communicate with them. They'll also not be able to see their friends, their followers there. That could help with eliminating the option to blackmail, right? Say, I'm going to send these pictures to all your friends because I know who they all are, things like that. My question is, how do you identify that an account is behaving in a scammy way?
It's a really good question. I want to make clear that if we know you are someone who is a sextortion scammer, we're going to remove you from the platform. And if you've contacted a teen, we're going to report you to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. But there are a lot of accounts that aren't necessarily engaging in that activity, but look like they could be on that path or may be considering doing so. The signals that we might see are them sending a ton of follow requests to teens that are not in their area, or a very, very new account trying to reach out to those types of teens. There are many, many signals we use, and depending on the degree of signal that we're getting, we may block you from being able to follow request a teen at all.
How often are you seeing that behavior? How big of a problem is it on your platform?
It's a very hard problem to size because the signals change and it happens across the internet. What we do know is that there's been a rise in financial sextortion across the internet. Nick has reported on it, for example. We think this is probably related to some of the financial issues of that time period. But what it does is it changes the crime. They're sending it out to more people just to see who will bite. And then if you don't bite, they move on.
One of the pieces of news that you're also announcing today is that you're taking down this sort of network of these criminals called Yahoo Boys, over 1,500 accounts. But you just had announced in July you took down about 7,000. So is this how quickly, and is there just thousands more out there that these accounts are popping up? And is it difficult? Is this proving that it's difficult for Meta to get a handle on it?
Well, we should take one step back and realize that there are billions of people on the platform and billions of messages and interactions happening. So we removed 1,600 accounts. This is on top of work that we had done before. What I would say is that means our technology is really working well. We are able to identify when these accounts try to come back on. It's great that we targeted these particular accounts because they also were trying to teach people how to do this scam.
Last quick question for you. What do you hope a teen who sees that PSA in their feed takes away from this?
Well, there are a couple things. One, I want them to notice the red flags. If someone's pressuring you to send an image or encouraging you to move to another app to finish this conversation, that should be a red flag. But I also want them to know that they shouldn't be ashamed if someone has targeted them. If someone has targeted you, these are adversarial, determined criminals. People get tricked. Please reach out to somebody. Reach out to a parent, a trusted adult. There is help.
Antigone Davis, thank you for joining us on a big day as these new features are announced. We appreciate you coming by. Always
Thank
good
you.
to see you. Coming up, feel like you deserve a little more money at work, but you're not sure how to start the conversation with your boss? Well, you're not alone. New research shows more than half, actually, of American workers are hesitant to ask for a raise. So how can you do it the right way? We are watching your wallet up next. Welcome back. Walmart is kicking off the holiday season a little early by sharing its plan to help customers save this year.
NBC's Savannah Henao joins us with that and some other money news. Savannah, good morning.
Hey, Joey, Savannah, good morning. Yeah, so Walmart is offering savings from now through Christmas to allow customers to make holiday meals for less than $7 per person. The retailer is bringing back its inflation-free Thanksgiving meal and has compiled a one-click shopping list for people to buy their essentials. The list, which totals just over $53, is available on Walmart.com, and items include a honeysuckle white whole turkey ranging from 10 to 17 pounds for $12 and a Marie Callender's pie for $5.63. Apple is launching a business caller ID feature next year as part of its Business Connect program, and companies of any size can register to have their name, their logo, and department appear when they contact customers. Now, that could help people know whether a call is from a legitimate business or spam. Apple is also adding brand info to the mail and phone apps, and companies can add their logo to the Tap to Pay feature for contactless payments. And listen to this. Taco Bell is reimagining the Crunchwrap Supreme. The fast food giant is teaming with a trio of chefs, including Ruben Asaram and Lawrence L.T. Smith, to roll out their interpretations of the Crunchwrap at select restaurants in New York City before potentially expanding nationwide. Now, the new Crunchwraps feature some unexpected ingredients based on the chef's individual tastes. Now, Asaram's has marinated slow-roasted chicken in a tomato curry paired with Mexican spiced rice.
Whoa.
All right.
That
Chicken's an unexpected ingredient.
Maybe the curry.
The curry. All right. Got it.
Probably the curry.
Yeah.
The curry part.
Got it. All right.
Savannah, thank you so much.
You got it.
Now to a workplace conversation that some might find uncomfortable, but others consider necessary. We're talking about asking for a raise. According to a recent survey, 80% of Americans feel like they deserve a raise. Only 60% of them intend to ask for one.
But experts say it doesn't have to be such a scary request, and it can even be a healthy conversation if you know how to do it right.
And that is where Hannah Howard comes in. She's the senior work editor for CNBC's Make It, with some ideas on the art of thoughtful asking.
Yes.
So, I mean, let's go through the pros and cons here, because I think some people worry, oh, could I do damage to my career if I ask for a raise? So walk us through the good and the bad here.
So this week, Make It is launching a negotiating course, and we have 3 experts who talk you through how to ask for a raise. In their perspective, there's only upside. You know, if you don't ask for more money, you're probably not going to get it. Relying on your boss, your management to advocate for you. You know, we all hope that will happen. And in the best case situation, like, yes, your manager will just be like, here's a raise, like, you deserve it. But you really need to advocate for yourself. So what you should be thinking about is starting that conversation probably about like 2 to 3 months before you know that there's going to be a usual merit or performance conversation.
And how do you start that? I imagine there's definitely a wrong way. So what's the right way?
So the wrong way is to, you know, show up to a meeting and say, I want more money. You don't want to spring it on your boss. What you want to do is set up a specific meeting, say, you know, I am interested in talking about my career development, my performance, and my growth at the company. Your boss should be able to key into that and say, okay, this person is talking about growth. Maybe they're thinking about a promotion. Maybe they're thinking about more money.
And it doesn't just have to be pay that you ask for. What are some of the other things that you can negotiate?
Absolutely. So things like flexibility are on the table. Obviously, we hear a lot about companies, calling employees back to office, having these return to office mandates. So something you could think about negotiating for, if you feel that your company is open to it, is flexibility in where you work and when you work. You could also be thinking about equity, bonuses, and things like PTO.
Yeah, I was supposed to say, is vacation time something that people commonly ask for and get
absolutely.
and say, hey, you don't have to pay me more, but I need a little more time off.
Yeah,
for sure.
Makes sense. Hannah, thank you so much. Great to have you here. Well, if you've ever scrolled through social media and seen food that looks so good, it makes your stomach grumble, but maybe it's too good to be true, NBC News reporter Maya Eaglin shows us one account that's gone viral for taking the food content game to a whole new level.
A croissant in the shape of moudang, caviar-topped fish and chips, a buffalo wing the size of a table, and bread loafers. Offerings posted on the Instagram of what appears to be the restaurant's more than 74,000 followers. On its website, Ethos says it's the home of unreal flavors. Maybe because that's exactly what it is, not real. This restaurant does not exist.
They have over 70,000 followers, and every single photo looks like it's AI.
Those mouth-watering meals, AI generated. Maybe it was the Jeff Bezos behind the bar that gave it away. But people online are confused, many believing it's a real top-rated restaurant based in Austin, Texas. We reached out for comment, but chatting with its 24/7 general manager, Giuseppe Fusilli, is less than helpful. And trying to make a reservation lands you at an interactive image of someone slapping a man in the face with an eel. It's the latest example in what experts call AI slop.
An ocean of information all over the internet, much of it quite unreliable.
With thousands of pages on Facebook dedicated to posting AI-generated images and fooling millions of users, flooding their followers with hundreds of images, hoping to drive engagement. But why?
People are hungry for attention, and it seems like they will do anything to get it. Now, sometimes it has a financial motive. You want to become an influencer. Sometimes it's just ego.
While we don't know anything about the people behind Ethos, there could be consequences to so much fake imagery clogging up our searches and feeds.
It's a huge challenge if we can no longer trust our eyes or our ears, right? We are coming up against a very consequential election, and we've already seen and heard all kinds of things that just aren't true.
One of the best ways you can stay safe online? Stay skeptical. Whether it's a cute croissant or a political soundbite, some content on the internet is more than meets the eye. Maya Eaglin, NBC News.
Our takeaway today is trust nothing.
Yeah.
Just anything you see.
It's not real. That's real.
Food's not real.
Yeah.
The news articles aren't real.
Not the only thing.
We're real. All
We
right.
don't. Coming up, foul on the play.
Yeah, after the break, why NFL legend Tom Brady's new ownership stake in the Las Vegas Raiders could prove to be a problem for his lucrative deal in broadcasting. We're going to dig into that next. We are back with a new venture for NFL great Tom Brady. The 7-time Super Bowl champ turned sports broadcaster is now part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders.
But could this cause some problems with his current TV job? NBC News correspondent Sam Brock explains.
The NFL's most recognizable name, Tom Brady.
You're a broadcaster. How about that? We're here. It's been quite a journey.
Is now a blockbuster figure in the broadcasting booth, inking a 10-year, $375 million deal with Fox Sports that kicked off this year.
They don't understand that you live and breathe for football because you're Tom freaking Brady.
But it's his newest venture, a 10% stake along with a business partner in the Las Vegas Raiders, which just received the blessing of NFL owners, fueling concerns about a possible conflict of interest, concerns the league's commissioner Roger Goodell has tried to dispel.
On the media side, Tom's been abiding by the issues that we raised through the committee voluntarily since he began his broadcasting. So that's all been resolved.
The bottom line is it feels like there was a paradigm shift here. The league decided this was in their best interest to involve Tom in both ownership and broadcasting at the same time, and they kind of changed the rules.
And you can understand why. Tom is extremely popular. People in the NFL really like him. He's extremely influential. And if you're Roger Goodell or if you're other owners,
there's a value to having him in your camp.
The NFL has established mandatory rules that the 7-time Super Bowl champion must follow, and the list is extensive. Brady will not be permitted in another team's facility, cannot witness team practices, can't attend broadcast production meetings either in person or virtually, can't publicly criticize game officials, and can't publicly criticize other teams. All of it begging the question, how can he even perform his job as a color commentator? NBC Sports' Mike Florio says the answer is simple. He can't. At least Florio says, not well.
Tom, you shouldn't be doing both. It's wrong for you to do both. It's a disservice to Fox, and at some level, it's a disservice to the Raiders, because it's not like you can go to the Raiders games.
In a statement issued by Brady after his ownership stake was approved, he made no mention of a possible conflict of interest, writing in part, "I'm eager to contribute to the organization in any way I can, honoring the Raiders' rich tradition while finding every possible opportunity to improve our offering to fans and, most importantly, win football games."
NFL ownership rules have tried to make NFL a family business for a very long time. And as those loosen, I think you're going to see more deals like this, which is celebrities like Tom who are coming in and buying 5% stakes or even smaller at severely discounted rates.
Now, a test of threading a needle between invested part owner and full-time broadcaster. Sam Brock, NBC News.
All right.
Quite the talker.
That is. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us. The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.